Welcome back. I am the Tax Man here on AM 560, The Answer, with Deborah and Jim. We're going to talk about taxes. But first of all, before I go into this segment, I want to mention, I think it was last week or the week before, I talked about corporate returns and the late fee as it comes to corporate returns. Well, I got a call from somebody because I was listening to the show. She said, I was out in my car and I heard you talking about it. And she said, I have this problem. So I did a little bit more research. I told you that this is something, and I did find might be some exception to having to pay the fee. You have to apply for it. You got to get an abatement, but there might be a way out because this is big money for a lot of people, right? It's been in this one woman's case, they call it been 3 or 4 years now as a partnership. And if you do $4,000, 4 years, that's $16,000 plus penalty. Plus interest. So anyway, there might be a way. So call me if you got that question. If you have you started a corporation some years ago and you haven't filed a tax return, call me. We'll talk about it. But this week, I got another call from someone this week, and it was she said, my divorce was concluded last year, and my ex got the home and all the debt.
And now, here's that man with a head just crammed full of knowledge, Mr. Know-It-All.
Okay,
that's right, ladies and gentlemen.
That's what happens when I get off.
Are we not going to do anything for this show? We have. I know you're fired up, Attorney Steve Lee, but let's Law and Order 3-1. I was going to give out your number. Yes, ladies and
664-6649.
Listen, ladies and gentlemen. Yes.
Okay, I'm going to run out of time. So my divorce was concluded last year. I forgot to do the intro. I am a professional, and I can go on without it. Ex got the home with the debt in the divorce, but the bank still recognized her as the borrower. And this happens a lot because people say, well, the judge said I'm not liable for it anymore. Well, guess what? You're still on the promissory note. You're still liable for it. The bank does.
Tenancy entirety?
Yeah, the bank, if you're divorced, there's no tenancy by the entirety.
No, I understand.
That goes away.
Oh, that goes away?
Yeah, because you're not divorced. Now it becomes a joint tenant. But anyway, and then her ex sold the home at a short sale for $300,000 less, and now they're going to come after with a 1099-C. And she's like, "Well, I moved out 2 years ago, so is that still my primary residence?" Because remember, one of the exceptions to a 1099-C is the Mortgage Forgiveness Act, and the Mortgage Debt Forgiveness Act is about your primary residence or principal residence. And she hadn't lived there for 2 years because they were separated for 2 years before they got divorced. So she's asking me, is there a way I can get around this? This $150,000 I'm going to have to pay in taxes, and I said, there might be this, and I got to the bottom of it. But it's if you lived in there the 2 years out of the last 5 years, you still could count it as your principal residence. So in this case, it's still going to be your principal residence. We're going to be able to avoid taxes on over $150,000. So even at a 25% tax rate, right, is 75 is $37.50 in taxes, $37,000 in taxes. So to avoid that is big. It's huge. Yeah. Okay, so there are ways, but it's like every law. There's exceptions. There's limitations. There's there's definitions, and all of this really is what makes the law. How does it work for me? How will that law work for me? And so that's what we do, is that we try to, and that's why, again, a lot of this, especially with 1099-Cs, which is a forgiveness of debt. So even if I have a credit card and I come up with a deal with the credit card company, they say, "Oh, you owe us $10,000," and I say, "Hey, will you settle for $2,500?" They say, "Yeah, we'll settle for $2,500." So then I pay them the $2,500. Well, that's the other $7,500 is. They're going to send me a 1099-C as debt forgiveness, and I'm going to pay taxes on that $7,500 as like it was income. Well, that's a lot of money still. But when you start talking about $300,000, now it gets.
Now we're talking big.
So you got to get somebody when you're talking about that kind of stuff. You don't do this yourself. Find somebody that knows what they're doing. Not all tax preparers do, and I'd say most don't. So be very careful. It's like hiring a bankruptcy lawyer when you have tax debt. Don't do that. Again, at least not one that doesn't understand taxes. And so make sure you find someone that can help you. We can help you at Open Tax Resolution. We help the 1099-Cs all the time. We fight
Don't worry,
it all
I'll
the
give
time.
them the number.
Okay, you're going to give them the number.
That's right.
Okay, well, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to say, I hope that answered your question.
Thank you, Mr. Know-It-All.
That's right. Thank you, Mr. Know-It-All. Attorney Stephen Leahy, that's one thing, people really need to understand this, and, people don't really have that kind of grasp around the law. This is why it's important to have representation. We talk about it all the time.
That's why.
All the time.
That's why I think a lot of these kinds of questions is not a tax preparer question. It's a legal question, and that's why you should. That's why when you have IRS problems, you should turn to an attorney that understands the legal implications of these things.
People step out and think that they can interpret
exactly, and so many. We talked about this a couple of weeks ago about CPAs who think that,
exactly.
oh, I'm a CPA, I could do this for you. No, you can't.
Being a real estate,
it's a whole different area. It's a whole different area.
Being a real estate agent, I have people ask me questions all the time, and I go, "Listen, this is a question that you should consult an attorney for."
And actually, if it's a legal question, you shouldn't answer it because it's called practicing law without a license. I think that too many people get away with practicing law without a license. But don't. And the problem with people practicing law without a license is they're not giving you good information.
That's right.
They're not lawyers, and that's why you need a lawyer to help you do this. And it's just that important.
And that attorney would be Stephen Leahy with Open Tax Resolution. 312-664-6649 and visit ChicagoTaxTeam.com. It's going to be your hub to fight the IRS. Now, ladies and gentlemen, I'm Jim Leahy with That Properties. If you're thinking about moving tomorrow, give me a call today, 847-271-3695. Also, too, ladies and gentlemen, listen to our sponsors and come right back because we're going to wrap this up IRS Radio Hour style on AM 560.
The Answer.